Today's episode is brought to you by HP Poly, where premium audio and video meet hybrid work. From headsets to video bars, HP Poly keeps your team connected, clear, and collaborative. Learn more at cdw.ca/poly. Hello and welcome to the CDW Canada Tech Talks podcast. I'm your host, KJ Burke, Field CTO for Hybrid Infrastructure at CDW Canada. Got a little bit of a different episode this month. We're going to talk a little bit about our BTEX event. Going to bring on some of the different presenters from the CDW side at BTEX and kind of go through some of the insights from the various sessions that they talked about. So it should be an interesting one. We've got some interesting topics to go over, and I think you'll get some value out of this. A little bit about the BTEX event that we run. So BTEX is our business technology expo. We bring this year we brought over 80 partners together. We do it in Rebel Nightclub in Toronto. It's kind of an interesting event because it's not quite as formal as some of the events. Get a lot of good interactions with partners, get a lot of good interactions with customers, and it sort of drives conversation around technology, but a lot of it is social as well. So it's kind of fun to be able to, reconnect with my coworkers that I don't see all the time because they're in different areas of the country, talk to partners and partner attendees that again, maybe they're spread out in the US or other parts of Canada. So kind of catch up with them. So it was nice to see, all the various partners that we work with and kind of get some FaceTime and have those discussions. And then really meeting with customers. It's really all about how we can better understand our customers' needs and then help them find, technology, help them find training, help them build processes that help, drive value for them. So a couple of statistics about it. We had roughly 1,500 attendees. So that's a lot of different customers to kind of come through there. We had, like I said, over 80 partners. There was an F1 simulator. There was Darcy Tucker and Haley Wickenheiser were there. So it was a good event and sort of brought out, some meet and greets and that. So overall, I really enjoy it. I find that our marketing team does a really good job and our customers get a lot of value out of it. In addition to that, we had a stage set up, two stages, one in the upstairs and one in sort of a side room, really where we're talking about, thought leadership and various topics that we'll kind of recap as we go through the episode here. For myself, I had the pleasure of interviewing David Adamkowski, Director of IT at MLSE. And that was really good because I think there's a lot of value in having our customers talk to customers. And so you can catch that video out on YouTube. David really talks about, the value that his team through transformation of IT has been able to provide his business. And I think that's important. I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to, make things more efficient, drive more value for the organizations that we work with, and ultimately, do more with less effort. So, talking about leveraging the cloud operating model, building things faster, being able to enable his business to move quicker and really drive, better customer experiences. Because at the end of the day, I think MLSE is really trying to create experiences for their fans. And you can't have legacy IT systems and long build times and long lead times and be successful. So check that out on the YouTube. Hopefully there'll be a link in the description of this. I always sort of, unfortunately for the marketing team, I throw some things at them as we go forward. But also the other videos that are available. Definitely, encourage you to check those out. And then we'll kind of get into the different interviews. There may be a clothing change or two for me because I recorded these on different days, and so there may be some interesting jump cuts that go on. But thanks for joining us for the podcast. Hopefully there's value here. Feel free to drop a note in the comment and like and subscribe on the various podcast platforms. Thanks again for joining us, and really appreciate your time. So Rowena, thanks for joining me. I know you guys kicked off BTEX with your presentation. As far as BTEX goes, was there anything that sort of jumped out at you this year?
I think it was the sheer volume of people that we had attending BTEX, especially the representation from some of the vendors that we work with. out there in the marketplace. I saw that all the booths for vendors were very, very busy, and there were a lot of customers that quite busy this year. I thought bigger than I've seen in previous years.
Yeah, it was a good opportunity to kind of connect with some of the partners that maybe you don't see all the time,
I, I agree. I spent a lot of time actually talking to customers and partners, and I didn't get to go to a lot of the sessions myself. So,
and you had the benefit of like going first, and so like having your session be early kind of gives you the rest of the day to work through, which is kind of nice.
that
Um,
was actually very nice. Yeah.
and so when you look at the session, so the session was around data resilience, minimum viability, meltdowns, but really it seemed like what you were saying is really was focused in on cyber resiliency and you were mentioning there was a lot in the prepared phase of that. Could you maybe just summarize a little bit about the insights that you talked about with customers?
Sure. So I work in data protection here at CDW, and what a lot of what's been driving data protection in recent years is obviously the risk of cyber attack, ransomware, etc. So when you look at backups, they really are your last resort recovery option. So organizations are realizing that they need to have very secure data within their backup environment, but they're also realizing that they need to be able to recover from that backup data.
Mhm.
So we took a look at some of the security results from CDW's cybersecurity survey that they do every year. And we looked at what that showed us from a particularly a backup perspective.
Mhm.
Showed really that organizations have increasing downtime. Unless they're strategically prepared for a cyber recovery incident, then they're going to take something like 3 times longer to recover
Mhm.
if they have an incident. And also that cloud is becoming increasingly attacked as one of the areas that is of focus to cyber attackers now.
Hey, Puneet, thanks for jumping on this with me. A couple of things. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about BTEX and the session that you ran. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about your impressions of BTEX 2025. Was there anything that sort of jumped out at you? Any partner things that were going on that really captured your attention?
Yeah, I really like BTEX because we continue to put it on and we continue to evolve it. To me, BTEX is an event that captures CDW's evolution in our market as well. We went from a very product centric company to now being a services and solutions focused company.
Hmm.
And you can see that at BTEX with different types of sessions, the depth that we're going with, the different types of partners that are coming, but specifically the focus on industry solutions or other things like that. There's so much to do. Some people just think it's still just go and talk to a vendor at a booth. But when you really immerse yourself, you really spend time there. I really enjoy how we continue to evolve BTEX to meet the needs of our customers.
Yeah, I normally lose my voice by the end of the day. It's just so many partners, so many customers, and then it's also a good time to catch up with all your coworkers that maybe come in for the event. So the session that you did was the backbone of digital transformation. Modernizing your network for what's next, and I do think that one of the key challenges we have is the network is in between parts of our application. It's all the connectivity to our data. But what were some of the key insights that you had in that session to kind of talk to our customers about?
So when our customers are making technology decisions, they're always trying to decide between the technology, the consumption model, and the operational model. What we were trying to get across was what's the difference between modernization and refresh? You almost have to look into a crystal ball when you think about what customers are trying to access and the way they're trying to access it. So our session was focused around how do you do more with less and how do you find the right partner support that meets the needs of where you are today, but has that flexibility, scalability, operability, or manageability to really help with who is trying to access what resources and how do you securely give that access.
Yeah, and everybody's trying to do more with less right now. That's definitely one of those keys. So So coming up in the fall, we also have our BTEX West events, and so for the listeners or customers that are in Calgary, that are in Vancouver, we've got those events coming up. What are you looking forward to for BTEX West?
Well, I mentioned this from my impressions as well, but I really think it feels a lot more deeper from when we go out west. There's an industry specific focus out west where our customers are coming and they're really expecting to make sure that we bring subject matter expertise that are tailored to their industry and beyond. I find a lot of the times they want a community type of feeling, right? Like it matters that we're in these cities. It matters that these cities are relevant to the Canadian or global marketplace. Sometimes you have a little bit of rivalry. Maybe that's from the hockey background, but Toronto is not the center of the universe. You actually do have to contextualize. What are you doing for where you are, and how are you bringing the relevant solutions and the relevant talk tracks to them? So I'm really just looking forward to those conversations contextualized to specific industries and specific markets.
Yeah, I love having the industrial IoT conversations, and again, like everything's connected via the network, and yeah, and then on a side note, I think you're speaking at Cisco Live, which is a great achievement, and people are going to Cisco Live. Highly encourage them to check out your talk track. But what are you going to be talking about at Cisco Live? And maybe you can just kind of give me a quick summary. That'd be awesome.
So I'm talking about how customers have gotten success going down the journey with software-defined access.
Mm,
When you think about the future of networking and a journey approach, if I tell you about zero trust, you're there with me, you understand the nuances, the value, you're committed. You're going to put a lot of investments, whether that's people or financial resources, to get there. And you're going to likely look at stacking things with third party support like CDW managed services. So in this session, I'm walking them through how much commitment, how much transformation, how much we're going to look to achieve when you commit to a networking journey that allows you to be automation centric. So when you look at workflow and you look at what parts of the tech stack you want to take care of, what you're getting back when you look at more software defined or automated centric methods is you're getting back time. So you're doing more with less. And now you're able to make that time to look into AI networking or look into cloud networking. So I'm going to be talking about all of that with how Cisco's done this for a number of years through a controller based automated centric software defined access.
awesome. That sounds great. I'm looking forward to Cisco Live. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, no, and it kind of goes back a little bit to the BTEC session we had. Having the right tools allows for you to design for the needs of your apps and the users so you're making optimal decisions.
Hmm.
When you're making decisions and it's just clear cut across the boards, find a way to cut 5%, find a way to cut 10%. What you need to sometimes do is separate the tree from the rest of the forest. How do you take some steps back and say, what's the transformation journey that the entire company is on? And
Hmm.
what's the network that they need to get there? And sometimes automated centric or sometimes managed services as a key part of that decision making is the right decision. You just need to look at the rest of the forest, not the tree in front of you.
No, thanks for that. Hey, David, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. I know that you were presenting at BTEX this year, but it was also your first BTEX. So, BTEX 2025, what were your impressions? Was there anything that maybe jumped out at you or conversations you had? But tell me kind of what it was like through the eyes of, a newcomer to BTEX.
Yeah, absolutely, KJ. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Long story short, it was an amazing experience. The team was amazing. The people who prepared me and helped me to get prepared for that presentation at CDW, everyone is just awesome, man. I can't thank enough the marketing team. I can't thank enough the technical team. So that's my opener, I would say, if you will. With regards to the event, you pointed out yourself, KJ, that that was my first BTEX. Hopefully, not the last one where I will be able to present and showcase the capabilities that our team has on public cloud and related hybrid cloud areas for our customers. The event was just like something that I haven't seen before. I was to many events, right, industry events and everything, but the the level of how customers interact with CDW
Hmm.
team, how CDW team interacts with our customers, that level of intimacy and how close we are to our customers, that was something interesting because, like I said, you rarely see that, and you can definitely tell if that the customers who are working with us. To some extent, I felt that they treat us as an extended family, if you will. So yeah, that was great. On the visitor side, I would say just observations from a person who was there for the first time. And I was deeply honored to be joining 3 months ago and getting a presentation spot. I know that that's an honor. That's I know because I spoke to multiple people, and it's just like you gotta earn your place to be presenting during the BTEX and having your own panel. So I'm thankful to everyone who trusted in me, and the panel itself was great. Like you said, it was about hybrid cloud, specifically around challenges that customers experiencing in hybrid cloud and why I chose hybrid cloud. Right, there are few engagements currently in flight where I see that we have a unique strengths and we have a unique angle and unique set of capabilities because I've been in this public cloud market for 5 years selling solutions and helping customers, and mostly those are what most of the partners and SIs doing on the market is pure public cloud.
Hmm.
But what we at CDW have, what I learned is that we have knowledge of existing quote unquote legacy infrastructure,
Hmm.
how to marry that with the brave new world of the cloud, and to make sure that customers don't get stuck in this technology talk, don't get stuck in acronyms that every hyperscaler has, right? And it's sort of the head will be just spinning, right? So we are helping our customers to bring those two realms into one and deliver business and technical value.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason why I fully supported you having a speaking spot was you're bringing sort of new ideas, and I think the more of that application and development and that perspective you bring. I think is critical, and so I think that's one of the things I really like about BTEX is also just all of these different ideas, all these different thought leaders, all coming together, and I love getting people like yourself in front of our customers that have these great ideas and a different perspective. And so I think in that way you definitely earn your way onto the stage. But so with the practical strategies for hybrid cloud, what were some of the key insights that you felt from your talk that really resonated with the customers that you spoke to?
Yeah, so the specific focus again, hybrid cloud could be anything, right? And if we go through well-architected framework requirements that every hyperscaler has their own flavor, but basically they boil down to specific pillars. And there are multiple pillars. Used to be 5, now 7, depends who you talk about. And what consistently I've seen in my career, number one priority is security and compliance. So that's why I specifically targeted that area. I didn't want to go very broad because customers would have just said, "Guys, this is too broad for a 30-minute session, right? Let's have it focused." And again, what I learned that working backwards from customers' requirements, working from what the customers actually want and where the pain points are, that's the area. And I think that was the right choice because the audience was engaged, people asked questions, and it's all about security and compliance. And when we talk about complex environments, not just public cloud, but when we combine public cloud with existing on-prem environments, that becomes very important because the vector of attack and security perimeter is just grows exponentially, right? Because now you have to adapt new operating model if you go to the public cloud, and you can't just operate the way you operate the on-prem environment. So that deeply resonated with customers, and I've seen this repeatedly that this is a top priority for, I would say, 80% of the customers.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is coming up, and I think it both plays very importantly in your space around cloud and public cloud services, but also I'm noticing more on the AI side is really like API security.
Oh
And
man.
and as a traditional sort of infrastructure data center guy, it wasn't really something I was super concerned about, but now that I'm starting to do more within, AI platforms and starting to tie services together, starting to use external services, that whole API security strategy becomes really important too.
Oh, absolutely. The public cloud is built on API, right? Because you don't have to log in into console. You don't have to be in Azure console. You don't have to be in GCP or AWS console. You just go there, create your account, and you can forget that. And what happens next? You just talk to that environment through sets of APIs that, and all of those services are exposed as APIs. And guess what happens if you don't do that in the right way?
Yeah, so I love that you started with security.
I've heard stories when people wouldn't notice how someone would get into the environment,
Yeah.
programmatically access their EC2 or whatever, yeah, Azure VM instances, and those would start mining bitcoins.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you starting with security is really important because, um, all the experimentation, all the work you're going to do, all those sort of, fail fast, learn quickly projects that you want to do, security doesn't get to take a day off. And so I think that's awesome. But, really appreciate you jumping on the podcast here, David. We'll find other opportunities for you to jump in and kind of share some of your perspective with our listeners and our customers. But really appreciate you jumping on, and I'm glad you enjoyed BTEX.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, KJ.
So first of all, thanks for doing a session at BTEX, Ryan. I think it's great. We get people in front of our customers, and we get to talk to them. We get to have conversations afterward and all of that. But could you tell me a little bit about what you thought of BTEX, and was this your first time being BTEX Toronto?
So this is my first time going to Toronto for BTEX. I've been out at BTEX West for the last couple of years with covering Calgary and Vancouver, but Toronto was amazing just from the sheer size and breadth of all the customers that we have. It really was like a mini convention. All the vendors, all the customers that I get to go and speak to on a yearly basis, get out to see them. So just absolutely loved it. It was so great. So many good conversations, meeting with a bunch of directors that were actually sitting in Toronto for the first time was just perfect.
Yeah, it's fun, and yeah, it has grown over the years too, and it's almost bursting at the edges. So tell me a little bit about your session. I know you and Michael Traves were talking about crawl, walk, run, an approach to leveraging blueprints and start kind of getting started with AI. But tell me a little bit about your session and kind of summarize it.
Sure. Like, I guess we took it from an approach of tackling AI is just challenging for organizations. So myself and Michael Traves and Tarini from NVIDIA, we didn't have a lot of time to speak. 20 minutes is very, very short, but for a very large topic. So it's really exciting to kind of work with both of them. Both of them are super amazing experts in the field. There's just a lot of noise when it comes to AI right now, a lot of fear, uncertainty. So we wanted to kind of take this methodical, slow approach to be a little bit more strategic. So organizations are bringing value with AI. So taking that crawl, walk, run approach from a desktop to the data center was our idea from the conceptualize of the conversation, and wanted to bring out where's our journey from exploring to experimenting, operationalizing, and then scaling. And where do you fit? What are the challenges that you see? And then from NVIDIA's side, we wanted them to bring out NVIDIA NIMs and blueprints, because that's really where we see this being the best way to start it. And you can start from that desktop and bring that straight through to your enterprise level using predictable blueprints. The different platforms, NVIDIA's AI Enterprise is going to be right there with you from the start all the way to the finish. That was pretty much our entire concept. NVIDIA is going to be releasing some products that are coming out later on this summer that are going to really help amplify that desktop side, as well as broach the POC. And then their DGX line is already there in the data center. But that first crawl and walk stage was a little bit murky of what organizations are doing. So we wanted to tackle that and tell them how to start.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of approaching it, and I do think that portability becomes really, really critical. So I like that we're kind of addressing that up front. Yeah, and Trini's been great. She's been doing some internal training for us. She's been helping with customer sessions. So that's awesome. So when you think about BTEX West, we'll be doing BTEX West in the fall again this year. What are you looking forward to with BTEX West, and and kind of how is that different for you?
I think it's different from the sense of, for me, one, I'm dealing more with a lot of the Western companies. I'm based out of Vancouver, so traveling to Toronto, I talk to people virtually quite a bit in west of Canada. I'm there in person in Calgary, in Edmonton, in Vancouver, there face to face. So seeing everyone a bit more, talking more about the AI and their challenges that they're going to be facing. Also, just you know, I love the western area, like the Vancouver scenery, the Calgary with like the Stampede Lake part that goes on in the summer, and then just our Edmonton branch has a lot of fun events up there too. But it's just a little bit different. I'd say a bit more laid back, relaxed compared to Toronto. Different oil and gas versus finance
Yeah.
in Calgary versus Toronto is always a fun different of the different approaches to AI and different problems that they have.
Hi, Mandeep. It's good to kind of meet you face to face finally.
Yeah,
And
indeed. Thank you so much, and sparing this time. This is so awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And so, so this being your first BTEX, BTEX 2025, what were some of the things that were takeaways for you about the event and kind of how you felt about it?
Oh, indeed, this was my first one, and I would like to say that this was a massive event. We had whole of this floor booked, and customers pouring in from all sides. And I would say, post-pandemic, when everyone was shut down into their houses, everyone wants to come out, and it was so awesome to meet each and everyone in person, like customers, partners, employees, friends, non-friends, and that has been so overwhelming. I would say it was such an nice feeling, and this is really building up new relationships. This is really building up all that what was required to be done. And this, I won't say this every year. BTEX has been better than before. So I would say 100% this has been a great event.
Yeah, it's 1,300 customers and yeah, it's a lot of consolidation of people, which is awesome. So the session that you ran at BTEX and we're talking to customers about was Windows 11 tips and tricks for a successful transition. And I know Windows 11 has been one of those hot topics with the end of life of Windows 10 this year, end of support, and so I know this is a pretty hot topic for our customers. What were some of the key insights that you felt were the most important from that session that we want to talk to our podcast listeners about?
Yeah, Windows 11 is already there, and Windows 10 is getting end of life in October 2025, and everyone is rushing towards, moving to their Windows 11. Either they have to refresh those, or they
Mhm.
have to update those devices, or they had lots of apprehension in terms of how we are going to do it in such a small time, and they are true because any of these projects required bare minimum 9 to 12 months, and we
Mhm.
are already on the verge of completing these. So we are already late, those who are thinking still to do it. So my first relevance was that it is more to do with the mindset,
Mhm.
because those who thinks that it's a huge change, no, it's not, because the changes has already happened when we moved to Windows 10. This is
Mhm.
just, if they treat this Windows 11 just as an upgrade to Windows 10, I think their lives would be much more easier.
Mhm.
And when they got this got resonated with the customers quite well, and now they are thinking of different ways. So, like the tools like modern deployment,
Mhm.
Intune, that can help them massively. If they have already put in their modern deployment in place, then these tools can, with a single click, they can help. That can help them, moving their existing devices into Windows 11. And those devices they cannot move, they can go for the refresh. They can go for moving those devices into Windows 11. So it
Mhm.
has been a huge success, lots of questions, queries, and it was one of the sessions, I think, where it was hall packed, and we had quite conversations with the customers on that part.
And so one of the things we got coming up in the fall is BTEX West, and so some of our customers that are maybe in Calgary or in Vancouver, they're going to be able to listen to these sessions. I think on our YouTube channel. What do you think is going to change between now and then? Do you think there's going to be a sense of urgency as we go towards this October date? I like what you're telling me is it's more of a perception of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But do you think that urgency is going to ramp up as we get closer to the fall?
Indeed, I would say the dates are already there. There is a huge urgency. And icing on the cake is there are new models which has been launched. Now, the problem is if our customers are not moving at this point of time, they
Hmm.
are putting their business on risk. Now, how do they put? Because once the updates do not comes for the existing devices, like for your mobile, if you're using Apple, Samsung, or you always keep on getting those updates.
Hmm.
And if those updates are not there, someone can, knock into your account and take away everything. So similarly, if you are not going to get updates and your business would be much more in a riskier proposition.
Hmm.
I use this tool quite frequently, like the Forrester tool, which can help in calculating your ROI, or it can help you understand how much you save if you move to Windows 11.
Hmm.
It's not bare minimum only on the hardware what you purchase or for moving to Windows 11, but there is a huge risk how much you would be spending if any ransomware attacks, if there are any security breaches.
Hmm.
And it has already been proven that 95% of the breaches happen from endpoint, not at the server level, but at your endpoints. So if your endpoints are not secured, you are putting business at huge risk. So we have tools to measure those. We can help our customers into their migration journey. We can do proof of concept. We have all the tools to support our customers. It is only they need to just raise their hand and say, please help us. And we would be there at their doorsteps. Our teams are equipped with all the technical skills which are required to help our customers to move into Windows 11 or help their journey into Windows 11 or to the new era of artificial intelligence, I would say.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mandeep. I really appreciate it, and obviously it was a good session, and I appreciate you jumping on for a recap on the podcast.
Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Shab. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. BTEX 2025 is wrapped, and we're talking to people about the various sessions they attended. And you had a session that you spoke at. Before we get to that, I just want to know: is there anything about BTEX 2025 that sort of jumped out at you? Was there any partners or any sort of innovation you saw, customers you talked to that really left an impression on you?
It was like I love the energy that we get at BTEX, right? I'm just, and I'm sure you've seen that as well. I'm used to the stodgy, boring vendor roadshows that we kind of put together, right? And so BTEX is nothing like that, right? BTEX is absolutely casual. BTEX is a bit of a party, and I love the energy that it kind of brings with it, right? So you have customers from all kinds of different segments there, and then I can't think of any other conference that I've been that has the same collection of vendors, right? So if you wanted to talk to AI or cloud or infrastructure or even something like peripherals, you could do all of that under one roof. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting having it in a nightclub, and just give it a different sort of vibe and flair for sure. So the session that you covered off was innovation's winning formula, Microsoft Copilot for every user, and a Copilot Studio agent for every process. And we have seen a lot of uptick with Copilot, a lot of workshops that you and the team are doing. Working in Studio, there's a lot of very lightweight agent processes that can be developed. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the insights from your session and kind of what you think resonated with customers?
It was so our session was really unique in that way because we had representation from CDW, so myself, but we also had representation from a customer who had gone through that journey,
Hmm.
and then someone from Microsoft who had whose job is effectively to kind of take customers through that, right? So it was really interesting to get those different perspectives all around the table. And then it was, and so this customer that we're talking about, they are on the bleeding edge, right? They have effectively gone ahead and went with Copilot as one of its early adopters. But it was still interesting to hear that not everyone is on that same adoption curve.
Mm.
You'll have some of those early adopters who've kind of taken to it, and kind of you've talked about those personal productivity pieces with the M365 Copilot as well as the business processes. But then you do have a large population within that customer who are still kind of struggling with it, or in some cases resisting it, right? So the security piece, the capability piece, I think most organizations will figure it out. I think it's the adoption piece that is still something that needs to be figured out, and I think organizations will kind of need to. It's specialized for each organization in terms of how they think about it.
Oh, very cool. And then if you look at kind of how things are going to change, because we got BTEX West coming up in the fall, is there anything in that space that you feel like is going to change over the next couple of months that might make the BTEX West conversations even different than the ones we just had?
So and I'm based out of Calgary, so I like how our technology kind of goes up and down in waves, right? So when oil and gas does well, I think everyone within this patch is willing to take risks and kind of do innovative things. And obviously, when it's not doing so well, even the operations becomes a bit of a challenge, right? So right now we are in the start of that crest of a wave all of a sudden. And one of the things that Alberta's kind of doubling down as part of its diversifying efforts is AI, right? So the fact that electricity is cheap, so they can set up those AI data centers cheaply. We also don't get lovely balmy weather, so your cost of cooling infrastructure in data centers is a lot lower than other places in the world, right? So there is that strong focus. They're also trying to kind of come up with those tech ecosystems, but I think the thing that supports all of this above everything is literally just the market dynamics, right? What's happening across the border? What is it? Drill, baby, drill. Right, so that is from a oil and gas perspective a good thing, and then I expect a lot of innovations to kind of come, a lot of focus on innovation in this space in the next 12 to 18 months.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and appreciate it, Shab. Thanks.
No problem.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for joining me. So, BTEX was pretty good this year. We had a lot of people. What were some of your takeaways? Is there anything you jumped out at you? Is there any partners you talked to that kind of left a lasting impression from BTEX 2025?
Yeah, BTEX was a lot of fun, a lot of different people, a lot of different customers to interface with. I'm on the West Coast, so I don't get to see physically a lot of the people on the East, so it was really nice to talk with my East Coast customers, as well as the vendors. I'm going to give a shout out to Dell. Their booth was really good. They had a really fun booth set up with their GB10s and GB300 talk on the AI front, and they also had more of a sports theme to it, so a lot of different stuff there. So got to talk with them. I'm hoping they throw some more stuff at us on the BTEX West, and that was in BTEX East.
Yeah. Shout out to Michael Peck. It's always fun to run into those guys. Hey, so looking at the session that you were in and talking to customers about, so modernizing virtualization, de-risking strategies, avoiding lock-in, embracing hybrid environments. What were some of the insights that you were trying to communicate to customers, that were attending that event?
Yeah, it's a very big topic. We're trying to really convey what their options are here, given the Broadcom acquisition of VMware as of late. A lot of people are upset with the pricing and the being told what they can use and what they can't use in their environments. I know Broadcom's VCF movement is very strong, and it's just not resonating with all the customers. So I'm taking in their stories, what their IT infrastructure looks like, where they want to go in the next few years, and trying to align them with all the various options and alternatives out there. And it could be, stay with VMware because it's the gold gold standard for hypervisors, or it could be move on to something else. But let's explore those and get into those various alternatives and discuss them.
Yeah, I think it's really created that compelling event where people have to step back and sort of rethink and that. No, I think those are good. Those are good call outs. So coming up here in the fall, we have our BTEX West, and so maybe customers will see you there. What are some of the things about BTEX West that you like, and what are you looking forward to here in the fall?
Yeah, again, it's just getting in front of those customers that we don't get much face time with. The stories, I call them IT nightmares sometimes, but it's not all nightmares. But we just get together, have that kind of water cooler talk with their infrastructure, the stuff they're doing, whether it's at work, infrastructure, or even after hours, going on off-roading, going camping, or things they enjoy. I like just get together and have these conversations and just get to know them better. Yeah. What else? In the West, I hope we have some better stories with where they want to go with their infrastructure. So the hybrid infrastructure as it is today.
Hey, Stefan, thanks for joining me. So going into BTEX 2025, I know you've been to a couple of these now, but was there anything that sort of jumped out to you about this year's BTEX and maybe some partners you talked to, maybe customers, but anything that really stood out?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. So I would say the sheer number of participants that we saw this year, it was even more than the previous 2 years that I was able to participate, really after COVID. So that was really nice to see all the vendors that were there, see all the participants, the interactions with the vendor. So it was really, for me, that's what stood out. We also had some great presentation, not only my presentation, but also some of my coworkers on security and so many other subjects that we had. So great event overall, definitely.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I talked to Chris already. We'll kind of merge all of these talks together. But so the session you guys talked about modernizing virtualization, de-risking strategies, avoiding environment lock-in, and embracing hybrid environments. You know, what were some of the key insights that you felt were important for customers to know out of that session?
Yeah, definitely. So the session was really focused around Nutanix, right? So that was our partner. Damon Bear was with us on stage. The idea was to kind of look at, okay, what happened in the past, right? So we have 26, almost 30 years of history in the virtualization space, VMware being the de facto in the environment. So looking
Mhm.
at what happened on the market, the changes in the technology, and also looking at not only what you need to do if you want to look at alternative, but what are the risks associated with that,
Mm.
and how Nutanix was able to help kind of bridge that gap and help with the migration. So it's really about de-risking your migration and enabling your possibilities.
Yeah, it's definitely a big compelling event for everybody. So that's great, and I do think the approach on removing risk is going to be where a lot of organizations are. Was there any sort of feedback that you got in from the customers that attended, or were there any questions that came out of it that sort of resonated with you that maybe other customers would be asking?
Yeah, and yes, there was some questions from customers after the fact on we have the ability to provide assessment to customers. A lot of them were, okay, how do I engage following this presentation, which was kind of nice to have that. So we do have the assessments. We do run tools to help understand what they
Mhm.
have and how we can help them modernize and kind of guide them in those choices. So I was glad to see some of those feedback coming through. So we have a lot of work now to do with some of those customers, obviously.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Stefan. I know it was a great session, and it's always good to get you and Chris together, and even Damon. I worked with Damon back in the day, and so it's good to get his insights as well. So thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey Evo, thanks for jumping on the podcast again. I know we just did like a longer deep dive into the cybersecurity study, but now we're kind of framing things in relation to BTEX 2025. And so, a quick question for you. You know, BTEX 2025 just happened. Lots of engagement. You know, a lot of customers came through. A lot of partners came through. Was there anything that sort of jumped out to you in your experience that that you can talk about?
No, it's always interesting, and thanks KJ for having me again. I feel like a regular guest. This is nice. No, it's always interesting when you have data that is that enforces what you think you know about the market, and then you go to a place like BTEX where there's a lot of clients and a lot of conversations with clients and vendors, and it continues to support. You continue to have this conversation, and I think one of the key ones that really sticks with me is when I talk to clients about that real gap between the strategic perspective that people have into how to implement zero trust and really making the rubber meet the road. There's still a huge gap between that. We're helping clients with that. It's one of the things that we do really well. But I think that there's a lot of organizations that are still seeing that gap and is still feeling the feeling that's like, yeah, hey, I got this report, now it's shelfware. How do I turn this into an actual roadmap, and then a roadmap that's executable from a technology perspective? So I think, in talking to clients, that seemed to be, really resonated with them when we did a quick 20-minute introduction to the study there at BTEX. But we just finished, doing a webinar as well that's available, and we can make that available for people who want to do it. Ben and I did a webinar, a whole hour on it, rather than the quick 20-minute we did at BTEX. So.
Yeah, yeah, and we were lucky enough to have you guys kind of talk about it on the last podcast as well. You know, from just a high level, like what were some of the key insights and that you talked about in your session, which was really focused on the Canadian cybersecurity study?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about Gen AI, there's been, I think what IDC like to call, based on the data, was it's stalling, right? The adoption of Gen AI stalling in Canadian organizations. And what's really the big takeaway from a study perspective is not just that people are hesitating to move even though they're doing a lot of proof of concepts, they're hesitating to move to a more to implement those AI systems within their organization. But what's interesting about it was that actually privacy and governance were the key areas in which they were uncomfortable with. So we see, as a security practitioner, I see this more as an opportunity. I know it's a challenge when it comes to do data governance, but I see it as a great opportunity to solve the things that have been on the shelf for a long time, like data classification, data loss prevention, and identity and access management. So those are the key areas. From a Gen AI adoption, that was one of the key findings. I talked about the gap between in the implementation of zero trust, and there was a couple of more findings around at detection and response as well that we talked about in the podcast. I know before, but I think that there's good news and bad news there. Good news is we seem to be doing better at detection on the endpoint. The bad news is that there's still a huge gap between the haves and have-nots. So the large Canadian organizations that have the money to spend in cybersecurity are doing better, right? Yeah, and the small organizations are kind of caught behind there, and so we have a big challenge for our industry generally, and ourselves as well as CDW, trying to solve that problem for our clients.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stuck out to me in our conversation around it was that testing works, like doing scenarios, doing tabletops, and that really it does pay off, and so. Smaller organizations that maybe don't have the ability to go make large capital expenses, maybe they can still do the testing, do the walkthroughs, do the tabletops, and that.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? Because we have organizations that will come to us and say, you know what, I have way too many problems. What's the point of me doing a pen test, right? And the answer is you need to find the big hole in your boat. Like you need to figure out what is the thing you need to fix, and that could be something that could be compromised right away, right? There was a couple of stats specifically around the findings, and a lot of organizations were able to find something that would have saved them if they would have fixed So during a pen test, a lot of organizations found something that would have saved them,
Hmm.
and a lot of even more organizations were able to find gaps that looked really large that needed to be taken care of that could cause them to be compromised. So it's the data's out there in terms of penetration testing, and the future looks like we need to start looking at more constant penetration testing, be it ongoing, automated, and human supported. Go back to the AI problem again, but that's been part of the conversation, right? Trying to figure out how we can do this on a more continuous basis, and use the very smart systems to take care of that.
Yeah, and so there's a lot more findings, obviously, in the cybersecurity study. So definitely encourage everybody to download it. I'll ask marketing to put in another link so that we can do that. I love doing that to marketing. So
/cybersecurity study. So
awesome. And then, coming up in the fall, we've got, BTEX West. So we got Calgary and Vancouver. Those are neat. They, one of the things that another coworker commented on is they tend to be more vertical specific, which is kind of cool because you can kind of get into the weeds a little bit more. But, what are you looking forward to going into October, the 7th and 9th, where we'll be in Calgary and Vancouver?
It's continue having these conversations with folks about the study and how things are changed,
Mhm.
right? One of the nice things about the study is living, breathing, and changing as we go. I love the idea of talking to, when we talk about Calgary, talking to the oil patch specifically about, what are the OT type of attacks, and that continuous surface attack surface continues to grow, right? Which is really, really scary. Curious to see the perspective on privacy and AI in BC. BC is always ahead when it comes to privacy, but their perspective as well is really valuable in terms of what that means in terms of adoption. So I think thinking of those markets and thinking of the great conversations we'll be having there, I'm really excited about BTEX West as well.
Well, and thanks for jumping on for this. Again, the study's out there. Highly encourage people to take a look at that. We've got the podcast where we did a bit of a deep dive, me and Ben Boydiku. But thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love a good podcast summer. It's podcast summer now, KJ.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Take it easy, man.
Thanks.
You.
Hey, Darren. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. We're doing a different one and getting insights from the various sessions. But looking at BTEX 2025, I know you and I have been to a number of these, and things have changed over the years. What were some of the takeaways that you had from this BTEX? Was there anything that sort of jumped out at you? Maybe it was a partner interaction or a customer interaction?
Well, definitely there were a couple that stood out. One actually was with a conversation with you, KJ. Always appreciate catching up with you and getting picking your brain about some great ideas that are happening in your neck of the woods. So that was one. But the other one was with the actual client that we did a panel discussion with. Because believe it or not, I'd worked 18 months with BDO Canada. I had not yet met anyone from BDO Canada in person. So it was the first time that I met with the individuals in person that I'd worked with for 18 months. So that certainly was a highlight of BTEX this year.
Yeah, that's got to be just an after effect of everybody working from home for so long, and we got comfortable with that remote work. That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like I'm finally past the point where I'm meeting new people in person that I've been working with at CDW for the last couple of years. But yeah. So when you talk about when you think about the session that you led, so from advisory to audit, how CDW helped BDO Canada secure ISO 27001 certification, what are some of the insights when you're talking to customers in that session that they really could take away?
Well, I think what I think we really impressed on the people who were in the audience was just the process that was involved, because I remember even speaking to Ivo, who's very familiar with ISO, and he didn't even realize just the rigor and the work that goes into getting a client prepared for an ISO 27001 certification audit. So with BDO Canada, as I alluded to, was an 18-month adventure. Normally, it doesn't take that long, but because it was a huge enterprise, and they've got a number of different IT teams that were involved with the engagement, it took a little bit longer. But I think at the end of the time, the client appreciated the rigor, the patience that we had with them, explaining literally everything that goes into this type of engagement. So they really appreciated all the fine details and experience that we brought to the table.
I think that's really interesting, because I think that for organizations that are looking at tackling this, knowing that there's organizations like yourself, people like yourself, and organizations like CDW Canada that can help them through that, but a lot of it is you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So no.
Exactly. And truth be told, BDO Canada, I don't know if a disclaimer, but they have their own risk advisory team. So it's very interesting that they came to us, because I think because of the relationship that they had with CDW, but also from the references that we brought, because we've been doing this for well over 15 years. So the experience that we had, certainly played into them choosing us as a partner in this adventure.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. And then, one of the interesting things you mentioned, the conversation that we had, we can't go very far without talking about AI, and I love what the team is doing around, data governance, and how we're really trying to help organizations prepare, not necessarily in your case the data, but the framework around, like, how do we deal with this? How do we manage it? And so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to, as we go forward with those conversations too.
Well, you hit the nail on the head about data governance, because truth be told, not a lot of companies are doing data governance well. And AI is now bringing that to the forefront, because you absolutely need to start thinking, if you don't have a proper framework in place for that, it's absolutely something that's necessary to as you forge on with AI initiatives.
Yeah, we're going to be having Snowflake on the podcast here upcoming, and talking about data curation and all of the tooling that kind of goes into that. So, well, thanks, Darren. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to it. And it's always fun to hear that you're educating Evo, because I always feel like I'm super behind on the governance side of things. And but yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you jumping on.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, KJ. Always great catching up with you.
Thanks for joining us for episode 35 of the CDW Canada Tech Talks podcast. I've been your host, KJ Burke. I really appreciate all of my coworkers who jumped on to kind of talk about their insights and talk about their experiences at BTEX 2025. And just a heads up that we will be doing BTEX West in the fall. BTEX West Calgary will be on October 7th. And BTEX West Vancouver will be on October 9th. So please, keep informed on our website to make sure to talk to your account managers that you receive your invite. But that should be a good time, and I'm sure everything, whether it's cybersecurity or AI or industrial IoT, it's gonna be lots of great topics, and things are going to change between now and then. But I'm looking forward to seeing more customers, looking forward to seeing, catching up with some of the partners, and finding out how things have changed. So thanks for joining us. Again, thanks for everybody who helped out with this podcast. And until the next month, keep growing, keep innovating, keep changing, keep learning. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to add any comments if there's topics that you think are of interest that you'd like us to cover. Please let us know. Thanks again. Stay safe.